There is a short internal memo that circulated inside a municipal maintenance department for less than 3 hours before being deleted. No one outside the department was ever meant to see it. It didn't contain any warnings or instructions. It didn't even describe a problem. It simply listed a location, a timestamp range, and a single, cryptic sentence. Observation required. No corrective action authorized. The location was a public pedestrian tunnel beneath an active rail line connecting to busy streets. Thousands of people pass through it every single day. It appears on all the city maps, official plans, even on emergency evacuation routes. There's nothing unusual about the structure itself. Concrete walls, standard lighting, a gradual slope down, then up again. The timestamp range in that memo was narrow. Just 36 minutes, late in the afternoon. According to the access logs, during those 36 minutes, the tunnel's surveillance system didn't fail. Every camera was fully operational. The power remained stable. Network latency was well within the normal range. The system recorded continuously, without a single interruption. But when the footage was reviewed later, it didn't match the metadata. At first, the discrepancy seemed minor. The digital counters that estimate foot traffic reported a normal volume. Roughly 147 individuals entered the tunnel during that interval. So, naturally, 147 should have exited on the opposite side. The video, however, showed fewer. Security staff initially assumed it was a simple counting error. These systems aren't perfect. People walk in groups. Some turn around. Some linger near the walls. The numbers are usually close enough to be acceptable. Except this time, the exit count wasn't close at all. The exit camera recorded exactly 143 people leaving the tunnel. 4 were missing. There was no corresponding footage of anyone reversing direction. No one stopped and waited long enough to be obscured from view. No emergency doors opened. No alarms were triggered. The tunnel is a straight shot. There are no side corridors, no hidden alcoves, nowhere to go. At first, this was handled as a routine technical review. The footage was watched again and again, frame by frame, from every single angle. Analysts marked entry times, clothing colors, walking speeds. They created temporary identifiers for everyone who passed through. Person 12A, Person 47C, Person 8AF. They found that 3 of the missing individuals could be tentatively matched. 2 people who appeared briefly distorted in the footage, and not just blurred, not occluded by another person. They were distorted in a way that didn't align with compression artifacts or motion blur. Their outlines seemed to lag for a split second, as if their movement was completely out of sync with the environment around them. The 4th missing person had no anomaly at all. One moment, they entered the tunnel, walking normally. The next moment, they were simply not present in the sequence of frames that followed. There was no cut in the video, no glitch, no dropped frames. Taewer Huths no longer there. The internal memo was issued right after this review, not to escalate the issue, not to report the problem, just to observe. During the following week, maintenance staff were instructed to perform their routine checks in the tunnel during that same afternoon window. They reported nothing unusual. The lighting was consistent. The acoustics were normal. Structural sensors showed no stress or strange vibrations. The public was never informed, and the tunnel remained open. Then the pattern repeated, not every day, and not on any predictable schedule. It always happened within a window of less than 40 minutes, always in the late afternoon, and always involved a small number of people. Never more than 6, never fewer than 1, and it always happened without triggering a single system designed to detect an absence. Emergency services were eventually consulted, but the information provided to them was incomplete. The case was framed as a simple data synchronization issue. They requested proof of a physical disappearance, but there was none to give, because, officially, no one had disappeared. No missing person reports were ever filed that correlated with those times. No families called looking for loved ones. No employers asked why someone didn't show up for their shift. The individuals who vanished from the footage were never reported missing. Their digital records remained active. Transit cards were still used. Phones continued to generate location pings. Bank cards made purchases. Just not in the tunnel footage. This led to a quiet, unsettling working theory that the error was visual, not physical. That something in the environment was interfering with the camera's ability to register certain people under very specific, unknown conditions. Totesti's portable camera was temporarily installed at a slightly different angle, its view overlapping the main system. During the next event window, the discrepancy happened again. Both camera systems, the old and the new, missed the exact same individuals. At this point, the review expanded beyond just video. Audio from nearby sensors was analyzed. Footstep patterns were counted. The timing of reverberations was compared from before and after each disappearance event. The results were inconsistent and, frankly, bizarre. In several instances, the sound of footsteps continued for about a second after the corresponding person was no longer visible on camera. The echo decayed as if someone was still walking, but there was no visual source for the sound. In one case, a faint overlap occurred. Two sets of footsteps briefly occupied the same acoustic signature, as if two bodies were sharing the exact same physical space for an instant. Then, one set of footsteps stopped abruptly. No alarms were triggered because the system simply interpreted this as noise overlap. Around the same time, maintenance workers began to report a subtle sensation when passing through the tunnel during that critical afternoon window. Nothing dramatic, just a feeling of hesitation, a momentary loss of spatial certainty. Several of them described the impression that the exit of the tunnel appeared slightly closer than it should be. These were just informal reports, whispers in the break room. Nothing was ever written down. A final test was proposed and quietly approved. A weighted rolling object, something like a heavy bowling ball, tagged with multiple sensors, was released into the tunnel at a fixed speed during the observation window. It wasn't alive. It couldn't perceive anything. The object entered the tunnel and rolled forward. The video showed it slowing slightly, then continuing on its path. The exit camera recorded it emerging, just as expected. But the internal sensors attached to the object logged something else entirely. For a period lasting just under 2 seconds, the accelerometer recorded forward motion without any corresponding rotation. It was as if the object was moving without actually traversing space. The object's internal clock also showed a tiny discrepancy, a negative time adjustment of 14 milliseconds. Not enough to matter to anyone, but just enough to exist. After this test, the observation memo was revised. The location remained the same. The timestamp window was adjusted slightly earlier, and one new line was added at the very end. Avoid reflective surfaces. Avoid stopping. No explanation accompanied this strange new instruction. Within a month, the tunnel was scheduled for a cosmetic renovation. New wall panels were installed. The lighting fixtures were replaced. The floor was resurfaced with a slightly different texture. And after the renovation, the event stopped. No further discrepancies were ever recorded. The foot traffic counts aligned perfectly. The audio and video finally matched. The revised memo was quietly archived. Years later, a transportation researcher reviewing historical sensor anomalies noticed something odd. During the renovation period, the tunnel's official length was listed as being marginally shorter than it was before. The difference was small, less than half a meter, well within what's considered an acceptable construction variance. Except, no structural change could account for it. The tunnel didn't collapse. It wasn't rebuilt. Its entry and exit points didn't move. Only the measured distance between them had changed. The researcher flagged the inconsistency but found no supporting documentation. The original maintenance memos were missing. The terabytes of video footage had been overwritten, as per standard procedure. The sensor logs were incomplete. The tunnel is still in use today. Thousands of people walk through it every day, without stopping, without ever noticing anything wrong, without realizing that, for a brief period in the past, it did not behave like a space you could fully trust, and there is nothing at all to indicate that it couldn't happen again. Something is wrong here. Thank you for watching. If you found this story as unsettling as I did, consider subscribing for more tales from the hidden corners of our world. Stay safe out there.